So wait, can they see my face?
Yes.
Tamar.
Hi, Rach.
Hi, Muffin.
I'd have to plug you into the wall.
Oh, wow, this is so exciting.
Hi, the first one here. Wait.
No, there's a lot of people here, Tamari. Don't say anything inappropriate. There's a lot of people on.
I know, I did that once already. I'm not even in my bedroom because it's messy, so I went to another room.
Oh,
Oh, that's better now.
good.
Wait, who is that?
There's a lot of people on. Say hello.
Hi, everyone. We say our names?
Yeah, go for yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Tamar Bar David.
This is Tamar, yes.
Hi, Tamar. I'm Rifki Lamb.
Oh, I see
Hi,
Wally.
Rifki. Rifki, you're friends with my sister, Elisa Epstein-Stamen.
Jewish geography, huh?
Oh, Hashem. Hi, Ali. This is so nice. Hi, everybody.
Joni Nathanson.
Welcome.
Wait, Rachel, are we not going to see you? We're just going to see this title thing?
I can't see anyone else either.
Can you see me when I talk?
Hi, Ali.
Yes.
You're the little box on top, but
I mean, I can't believe you just called me a little box, but I'm okay with that.
there's a big white box that says the Hagaddah from Isolation.
Yeah, I have pictures and it's going to be pretty.
Okay.
It's going to be okay. Okay, friends. Okay, first of all, if life happens and you need to get off, it's not personal. I'm so happy you're with us. And if you have anything to say, please interrupt me, unless it's Tamar, in which case you should tell me later.
You got it.
Everyone say hi to Mark.
Hi, Mark.
There you go. I'm taking it back now. Okay, so I've been thinking a lot about this very bizarre, crazy time that we're living through, and how by being isolated, we're actually connecting to community more, that we're saving people's lives by being antisocial. It feels so against everything that we're wired for, everything that we've been told to do. And it's strange that it's an act of communal sacrifice to not engage with the community. And so it occurs to me that the Hagaddah actually has very similar themes of opposites, of being pulled in multiple directions for the sake of an individual, for the sake of good. And so I decided to look at the Hagaddah with that lens. And with that in mind, I'm going to drop a whole bunch of interesting little tidbits in your lap. And if you like it, that's awesome. And if not, then I'm sorry. Okay. So I'm going to start with two pictures that I love about leaving Egypt. One is Chagall on the left. Can you guys see the pictures okay?
They're small, but they're okay.
Okay.
You're not on video, right? Just audio?
Okay. So Pesach Mitzrayim, you'll see, has the Chagall, and it's like everyone's sort of lumped together and they're black and white, and it feels almost ephemeral, like a dream. And it feels so evocative for me. And then you have another picture that was made where the people in the picture are reenacting what happened, but they're in modern dress. And I think that every year we come back to Pesach, and it's as if we are going through the same thing that they went through, but it's in modern clothing from a long, long time ago, and it's happening to us again. And we revisit these experiences as if for the first time, even though we know the script very well. So bearing that in mind, not every slide is going to have this much on it. I just wanted to overwhelm you. I love this website, Al HaTorah, if you don't know it yet. And this is all the different sources for the mitzvah of telling the story at night. And it's unbelievably overwhelming. Remember and do and tell and really what's going on. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of an understanding, so don't worry about the slide. So the Rambam has a beautiful understanding of all of these different mitzvot to tell the story. It says, Chayav Adam leharot et atzmo ki'ilu hu yatsa miMitzrayim, which is different than leharot et atzmo, to see himself. Leharot is to make himself seen, but who is it? Like, to make himself seen as himself, to make himself seen to others. It's not so clear. As if he left Egypt. What does that mean, to really see yourself? And so for me, the theme for the Hagaddah is about a paradigm. How do I see myself? What is the narrative that I'm telling myself? Am I a victim? Am I a survivor? What is the story that I'm engaged in? So I'm having the audacity to quote Rabbi Dr. Norman Lamb, who Mark quoted him to me on Friday, and I've now told this to our Torah like a million times since Friday because it's just so beautiful.
Rachel, you just ask people to mute themselves.
Could everybody please mute yourself? I've always wanted to say that.
Sorry.
No, thank you. Wow, this is a moment. Hashem is great. But unmute yourself to ask a question, interrupt. Is that okay, everybody?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. So here's the beautiful Dvar Torah. We were taking the dog for a walk, and so it's mutter. And we notice that the trees are blooming, and there's a bracha we get to say in Nisan when we see the blooming trees. And one of the lines is, that God is not missing anything from his world. But we actually say in Borei Nefashot every day, we say Borei Nefashot Rabot v'Chesronan, and we thank God for what is missing. And we're so grateful for what's missing. So pick a team, like I say to Mark all the time. Either we're thanking God for what's missing, or we're thanking God for not making anything missing, but it can't be both. So Rabbi Dr. Lamb has, in his beautiful, beautiful way of explaining amazing ideas, says that we're allowed to act as if, like a ke'ilu. He calls it a holy fiction, that we are allowed to have a holy fiction where we say, right now, this amazing moment, this crazy, crazy situation, I am going to pretend that it's all good, that everything is kol beseder, and it's going to be okay. In this one moment, it's like God's in his heaven and all's right with the world. I'm going to just enjoy the moment of this tree and this bloom, and even though the whole world is crashing around me, this moment is incredibly sacred. And I have found myself throughout this incredibly bizarre and strange time so inspired by these many moments that I've encountered, moments with teachers, moments with students, moments between humanity, where in one little moment, I'm like, wow, that was like unbelievably beautiful and perfect in its perfection, even in the context of its imperfection, that it was perfect in that moment, and the idea of a holy fiction. So on this night, we act as if we're given permission to have a holy fiction, and which, by the way, is just a stunning idea. It gives us permission to engage. So one amazing thing that happens every year is you reread the same text and you notice things you never noticed before. So this year I noticed Manish Tana. So I looked at the Malbim. I have studied the Malbim on this Hagaddah, I don't know how many years in a row now, and I never noticed this before. What is it? Velo Zachiti. The Malbim wants to know why we're starting off Magid with asking these questions of comparison. On all other nights we do this, on tonight we do this. It's very strange. He points out that one of the purposes of Manish Tana is to help us get into a frame of mind where we can appreciate the Exodus. And one way to do it is to talk about what we have now, what we take for granted. And now, can you imagine a world where you can't leave your house? Can you imagine a world where you couldn't go to school? I mean, you're so lucky, right? So can you imagine a world where you didn't get to celebrate being free, where being free was just foreign to you, where you couldn't have the kind of food that you have at your table like bread, where you had to have poor man's bread, and really highlighting really specific cases where you can, it's tangible, there's props, helps us get into a frame of mind. So the Malbim says the purpose is to generate a spiritual and intellectual awakening through the recognition that there's this sudden and massive change. So as I'm reading that and I'm going over the Manish Tana, I suddenly remember the Kina on Tisha B'Av. Do you remember the Kina that we say, B'tzeiti mi Mitzrayim? I would sing it for you, but I don't want to hurt your feelings. We do this, we sing this beautiful Kina on Tisha B'Av. It says, this is how great it was when we left Egypt, and look how sad it was when we left Jerusalem. And we end with a hopeful, 2 lines about when we go back to Israel in the time of Mashiach, hopefully it will be that good. But we use this paradigm a lot when it comes to connecting us into patterns of Jewish history. Okay, it's really hard not having all of you in front of me. I'm so sorry. I miss you all. Okay, here's something really neat that Mark and I got into a debate about. There's Mark. Say hi. Okay. So we talked about this machloket about, you have to tell this story and you start with the bad, the genai, and you move to shevach. And so the Gemara says, what counts as genai? What counts as negative? And we all know what the shevach is, we got out. So one opinion in the Gemara says, no, the negative we start with is avadim hayinu leparo b'mitzrayim, we were slaves. and to Paro in Egypt. And the other opinion says, no, it was Mitchila Ovdei Avodah Zarah Hayu Avotenu. The embarrassing thing is that that our forefathers were idol worshippers. So the easiest shot, according to Rabbi Dratch, which he's right, he's totally right, is that it's a spiritual versus a physical kind of issue. Is this a physical shame that I was physically a slave, or was it a spiritual shame because I was spiritually enslaving myself to another, to a God? I love that idea. I'm going to go in a different direction. I was thinking about this a lot. In both cases, Avraham had to be saved, taken out, according to the Psukim and Yehoshua that we use to describe him leaving Ur Kasdim, and we know the Midrash about the fire. And the Jewish people, we needed to be saved. But the difference is that Avraham was one person, and in the case of Bnei Israel, we were a group. And what I think the Gemara is saying, in addition to the physical and spiritual dimension, is that we need individuals and we need a group. We need one person to have the ability, the courage to say, I'm separating myself, which has such resonant themes this year more than ever. I'm going to separate myself. I'm not going to join in. I'm going to be an iconoclast, even though it's going to cost me friends and it could cost me wealth and it could cost me all these things. And I'm going to stand up for what I believe in. And it's going to take a lot of individuals coming together as a group to do that when we leave Egypt. There's a really cool TED Talk that's like 3.5 minutes long. It's called How to Start a Movement. If you haven't seen it, it's really adorable. And basically this crazy guy's on a beach and he starts dancing like a lunatic. And right now he's only a lunatic because he's one guy. And the thing that makes it into a movement is the second and the third guys that follow him. So one guy doesn't start a movement, but another guy that has the guts to follow him, and another guy that has the guts to follow him, that makes a community. And having lots of individuals come together, that makes a whole. And I keep thinking so much about this year, where so many individuals are having the courage to say, I'm going to go through this suffering of aloneness, of not having what I anticipate, of not having what I wanted, of being disappointed with what is, for the sake of the whole. And it's incredibly brave and powerful. I hear myself coming back. Okay. Another aspect of this is when we learn about matzah. And when you were younger, you probably learned that we eat matzah because that was poor man's bread. Or you may have learned that we eat matzah because we left in a rush. Except we also learned that we were told we had to make matzah the night that we left. Do you remember that, it's tonight, no, Rosh Chodesh is Thursday. Oh, tonight, happy Chodesh Tov, right? I was gonna say, Chodesh Tov, everybody. So tonight, many, many, many years ago, Hashem gave us the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh. Happy Rosh Chodesh. And not only that, we were told 14 days from now, you guys are leaving. Not only are you going to bring a korban, but I'm telling you, you're going to have to eat it with matzah. So it's not like it was a giant surprise. So what is it? What is it? Why are we having this bread that we're told to eat? That's what it's supposed to symbolically remind me of the bread I used to eat. I don't know, do you really think you would need to tell a bunch of Jewish people that you should prepare food? Like, I can't imagine someone needing to tell us that. So really, what's going on here? So one of the theories I want to present to you is that the poor man's bread represents the past. The being in a rush represents the future, that I'm free. And the mitzvah puts them together. It takes matzah, that all of this time was the food that represented my oppression, my victimhood. And it says that very food that represented everything that wasn't about freedom, I'm now going to reframe it. I'm going to change my paradigm. And now that very food represents my freedom and God's choosing of me. So if you check it out, Rav Yair Khan on etzion.org has a stunning explanation. And he says that Bnei Israel suddenly realized that the bread that was symbolic, hang on, I'm like covering all my language. Here, 1 second. Here we go. Sorry. That the bread that symbolizes the redemption that suddenly came upon them is none other than the bread that they identified all those years with affliction. Only then did they understand the mystery of the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. Only then did they understand that it was the affliction that led to the cry that brought about the redemption. We see then that matzah, eaten together with the Pesach sacrifice, constitutes a joining of the bread of affliction with the bread of redemption. It's really unbelievable when you think about it, that we could take the very symbol of affliction and turn it on its head. And just to make it clear, this is my very lame attempt at a Venn diagram. I'm sure that there's a better way to do it. But Korban Pesach represents freedom. Maror represents oppression. And we put them together in our sandwich. But nowadays, you can't have one without the other. You can only have matzah because matzah represents everything. So today, when we don't have a Korban Pesach, we don't have the same kind of mitzvah for a maror, right? It's only a derabana. But right now, so we eat them all symbolically. But the only thing we do still have a mitzvah for is matzah because that can stand alone. That's kind of cool, right? I'll tell you, there's a really, years ago when I was speaking at KMS on Shabbat Hagadol, I really wanted to find an answer for a question that bothered me. I totally can wrap my head around the mitzvah of matzah, but I've always struggled with why do we have to clean our houses of chametz? Like Bnei Israel, were they not allowed to have chametz in Egypt? Was there a mitzvah like you cannot have bread when you leave Egypt? Like what, and why 7 days? Like that's a good extreme. Like I get matzah, but like no bread, like that's a lot. So I was reading an article that footnoted another article that footnoted a cookbook. And in the footnote of this cookbook, it said that in Egypt, they created the oven and the idea of bread rising with yeast. So that what the symbol of Egyptian culture was risen bread, but bread that was risen. Is that a word? Yeah. Risen bread? Okay, Mark says it's a word. So that's kind of neat, which means that getting rid of chametz means I'm getting rid of a cultural paradigm. I'm not looking at myself as Egyptian because I'm not looking at myself the way the Egyptians looked at me. I'm looking at myself in a new way. I'm going to use all these props and symbols to help me see myself differently. So we continue with the theme that is stunning. So Rabbi Sachs says, he's actually talking about Yosef. But he has this stunning piece about Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl in the book Man's Search for Meaning talks about how the Nazis could take anything away from us, except they can't take away from me my inner world and how I respond, how I interpret something. Am I a victim for the rest of my life or am I a survivor? Am I a person that was thrown into slavery and I'm always going to be a slavery? I'm going to have a slave mentality? Or am I a person that terrible things happen to me, but that's not who I am? The ability to transform my paradigm is so crucial and such a symbol of freedom. He actually says that Yosef in the story with the brothers is one of the most paradigmatic examples of this. Remember when he reveals himself to the brothers, he tells them, Lo atem shlachtani, you didn't send me down here, Hashem did. He takes the narrative of having been abused by his brothers and he says, you don't get to take that away from me. This was Hashem's will. And he owns his story in a really powerful way. And I think part of the message of the Seder is we get to own our story as well. And I think that's why Karpas is so cool. Kadesh, we make Kiddush, Orchatz, we prepare for Karpas, and we start the whole Seder with Karpas. So Rabbi Berglass, I heard many years ago, say that Karpas reminds us of Pasim, right? The coat of many colors, the Ketonet Pasim of Yosef. And so why are we having this karpas, this vegetable, which could mean green, which is jealousy, by the way, but it could also mean like stripes. So why do we eat it? Because the whole reason that we ended up down in Egypt was because we were jealous of one another. And we are about to say, anybody who needs a place, come. Before we invite our guests, we're going to make sure that no one's going to be jealous because that's what got us into this mess in the first place. And in this place of being free people, we need to own our narratives. So that's kind of beautiful. And then you get to the place where it comes together. This is kind of fun. So why is halach ma'anya sandwiched between yachatz and magid? So let's go through it. We have kadesh or chatz karpas. And after we dip the vegetable, I still hear my bubby, may she rest in peace. Remember, I can hear her crunching the celery and eating lots of celery because she was hungry. Anyway, after karpas, we do yachatz. Yachatz is where we break that matzah. And I think about it, when you break matzah, right, you're breaking your past. You're breaking the hold it had on you. You're breaking that symbol of slavery. You're breaking it and you're saying it no longer has a hold on me. And I actually chose a picture of a broken dish because it reminded me of Tanayim. It's like we're starting over. We're making a new agreement with God. We're breaking its hold. And we're saying this part is for now, and I'm saving the second part for later. And that sets the stage, allowing me to see myself differently. So I'm going to now start Magid with halach ma'anya, which is narrating the change in how matzah is going to be in my life. Halach ma'anya, this is the bread of affliction. This matzah that I'm holding in my hand, this used to represent my slavery. Then I move on to kol dichven yete v'yechol. Anybody who needs to have a korban pesach, because now I'm free, I'm in Israel, I'm in the Beit HaMikdash, come join me. Except the next sentence recognizes that right now we're not in the Beit HaMikdash. And you could get really sad and you could say, it's not perfect anymore. I'm done. The story ended. It doesn't. It says, Hashtahacha, now I'm here. L'shan haba ba'aretz Yisrael. That's incredible. It means that next year I hope to be back. It means the story isn't over. The spiral is continuing. I get to own the narrative. It's not ended. But I do get to stop at any point in the narrative and say thank you. It's like the Dayenu story. And I think you're going to see that again with the 4 cups of wine, right? So in the 4 cups of wine, you have 2 that symbolize good and freedom, the expressions of redemption, the 4 cups of paro. And you have 2 that represents scary stuff. Oh, but I have to tell them the cups thing because that was so cool. I'm off topic for a second because this is really neat. One of the 4 opinions about why we have Arba Kosot is because remember when Yosef was in prison and the butler had a dream about giving Paro his cup. And the word kos is mentioned 4 times. So you read that midrash and you're like, wait, so you got 4 cups of wine at the Seder from the butler's bizarre dream about serving Paro? Like, what does that have to do with anything? What was his name? I forgot. So I'm so sorry. I apologize that I forgot the name of the very great person who gave us the answer. But a colleague of my husband suggested that the Koso, this butler was the first person who was freed from slavery in the Torah. And so he has a dream of these 4 cups. And the key to being freed from slavery is the ability to dream of a life afterwards. And that the Koso, therefore, are so integral to the story because we could dream beyond ourselves. Now you think about, hang on a second, you think about how all of these 4 cups are so interesting. I'm just going to try and mute everybody who is not yet muted.
Not signing on to talk to her friends. That would be avoided.
One second. One of you is not muted, and it's fine with me, but I think it might bother other people. So hang on.
I'm not doing it.
Cheryl, I got you. Hi, Keith. There you go. Okay. I love my friends. You're the best people ever. Okay. So one of the things I noticed is that in the Kosot, in the Arba Kosot, it's very strange rules, right? Everybody's supposed to participate, even women, right? And we recline, and you're not even allowed to do it at once. You can't just have your 4 cups and be done. So Rav Tabori, may rest in peace, he suggests that it's very important that the 4 cups happen in 4 stages. And that fits into what we've been saying all along. We're not ever done. Nothing is ever perfect. We're in lots of as-if stages. We're lots of ki'ilu stages. We're at every point we grow and we're different, and we have the right and the invitation to celebrate that great moment of mini perfection, knowing that it's not done. Each of the koso comes in its right time, even though right now it's very much not finished. So now I'm going to give you the paradox of choice. You know, the paradox of choices is that if you go to the store and you have too many choices, it's annoying, so you don't choose anything. So I'm going to help you answer the following question. Are you ready? Who is the Hagaddah focused on? And I'm going to give you 4 choices, and they have pictures. So I'm going to give you the Jeopardy music. Let's assume that there are 4 people at your Seder, 4 categories of people. We have the wise son and the wicked son, and the Tom son and the son who doesn't know how to ask. And if I had to ask you, I am asking you, pick one that you think the Seder is really geared to. What would you say? So whatever you said, Keith, whatever you said, I can't hear you because you're all on mute. So I appreciate that. Let's pretend that you said lots of great answers, because you probably did, because you're brilliant. And for sure, whatever you said is brilliant and right. I'm going to give you an answer that I heard this year that I really appreciate. Hang on a sec. Here we go. And I just want to tell you that this answer is from Rav Eliakim Krumbein from Etzion. Here's what he says. He says, the greatest educational effort of the Hagaddah is directed toward the child who doesn't know how to ask. I never noticed that before. Think about it. You guys got it right? It's awesome. I hadn't noticed it. Think about how many times we script questions, right? Think about how many times we point at things. Here, I'll just show you the next slide for a second. I got to come back to this one. And again, look at everything we point to. Maror zeh, matzah zeh. We point to the Seder plate. We move the Seder plate. It's such a tactile holiday, right? Think about, we ask questions and then we invite questions. We even invite the inappropriate questions. We make room for existential issues and dilemmas and processes at the very Seder. Now, he says something incredible here. He says, great thought was expended by the sages and by those who came after them to properly fulfill the mitzvah of you initiate him, apatachlo. There's no indication whatsoever that the child is mentally deficient or intellectually lacking. His only limitation is that he does not know how to ask. He's afraid of admitting that everything is so incomprehensible. It's like beyond. On the contrary, it is precisely the intellectually gifted who are likely to suffer from this deficiency. Those Seder rituals that are uncommon and even seem strange provide a significant allusion to our existential state in the world. Their goal is to bring each one of us to recognize the boundaries of our understanding. So here's his main point. The purpose of all of this nudging people to ask questions is that Chazal want us to deeply desire to transcend our limitations and ask a question. Now check this out. We're asking all these questions. Now this is really cool. He ends by saying, listen, the part of the Seder where we bring Eliyahu in is so cool, right? We open the door, Shvo Chamatcha, right? Everyone probably has a story at this point as someone who accidentally was there and you freaked out. My mother to this day still thinks she meant Eliyahu. I'm sure she did. But my point is this. He says, why do we bring in Eliyahu at the end of the Seder, the question part of the Seder, and before we end with just Hallel? And remember that Eliyahu, when you can't answer a question in the Gemara, you say, Teku, Tishbi Yana. Someday Eliyahu will come and we'll figure out the right answer. And part of the idea is that questions are so essential. The answer is not always so important. And you're not going to figure out, we will not know all the answers by the end of the night. It's okay for the Rasha to have his question hanging. It's okay, we're not going to know all that, why bad things happen to good people. We're not going to figure it all out. We're not able to, but we will. The engagement with the question is so essential though. And that is what keeps us going. And so we're allowed to have this uncomfortable dance of understanding and yet knowing I don't totally understand, of belonging and knowing I don't totally get how it all fits together. And it's this dance of imperfection where we're given little mini moments of celebration. We're given the opportunity to have a paradigm shift, to see ourselves as if, ki'ilu, we're leaving Egypt all the time. And it's a challenge. Do I see myself as an insider and outsider, a part of individual? Am I an individual or a part of a group? Am I belonging or am I irrelevant? Am I close or am I far? Am I beginning or am I finished? And the answer is yes, and all of the above. We're in process. And that's part of the beauty. And that's part of the message of the Seder. And I think that we see that in our opposites. Like, think about this for a second. Was there blood on the outside of the door that we left? You know, the night that we left Egypt, we had to put blood on the doorways. So was the blood on the outside or on the inside? Who is it for? Did the angel really need to see it not to come in? I mean, I imagine angels can see things. Was it for me? Or was it for the outside? Or was it for both? And there's a three-way machloket. We have two opposite meanings for charoset. It can mean it was like the stuff that we made to make bricks, or it represents the beautiful things that the love that the husbands and wives had for each other, even when things were difficult. We have two different brachot on matzah. We have two korbanot on the plate, one Pesach and one Chagiga. We have two different kinds of hallels. You know, one's really fast and one's like just over the top. I can't even. We have yachatz and safun, two times where we talk about saving something for later and hoping for more. So we contain these opposites. My mom often says to me that life is complicated and it's okay to hold on to big feelings that are opposite at the same time, which was one of the best pieces of advice ever. And it occurs to me this year, more so than others, that this is a year of opposites. You know, every year we go through this and every year we read the same words, but we're so different and we're in different places, not just physically, but spiritually, and the world is in a different place. So to meet these words again and feel as if we are leaving Egypt again, being the people that we are this year, feels familiar and yet not familiar. And so this year of isolation and belonging, wow, I just ran through this year really fast. See what happens when you don't let people talk, it's terrible. But this year of when we talk about isolation and belonging and our seders are not exactly what we had planned for them, they might just be something incredibly special for all of us. My bracha is that we are blessed to have many moments of as if, of holy fiction, and that we are blessed to have back the Pesachs that we wish for and yearn for very soon. I'm so happy you joined me. I hope you enjoyed. You could take yourself off mute and say hello to each other.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, Rebecca
Rachel.
Martine, I just saw you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're
Rachel.
Rachel.
I particularly
Thank you,
like the
Rachel.
idea of the opposites.
Uh-huh.
I'm saying the idea of the opposites was very, very nice.
Oh, thank you so much.
I really enjoyed it.
I noticed it before, and it's fascinating to me. Like now I see it, I can't unsee it. Oh, this is so nice. Mazel tov to Rebecca Barshain, who said is engaged in Israel.
Oh,
Sorry.
mazel tov.
Look at
Your
that.
son's engaged too.
Sure, you know. Hey, they should be friends. And there's LevittKleinDratch.
Could you not see us when you were talking?
No, I didn't. I was like so focused on the screen. Hang on. How do I go? How do I undo the screen share? Because I want to see
Screen.
everybody.
Stop showing screen.